Hey everyone, you're with Tom from Ludicrous Feed. Thanks so much for joining us. Today we're chatting with Brett, who recently installed an EV charger for his new Hyundai Ioniq 5 in an apartment building in Sydney. Brett, welcome to the channel.
It's great to be with you, Tom.
So as we all know, there is currently a perception that owning an EV while living in an apartment is difficult. Problems I've heard that owners have encountered include trying to use power outlets in common areas and trying to come up with ways to estimate usage to pay for that power. Strata committees that have been difficult to deal with, all the way to investors not wanting to allow renters to install chargers. You've managed to get your EV charger installed. Was that a difficult process?
Not at all. Actually, no.
Good. I mean, were you surprised?
Actually, yeah, I was. I guess in part because I think I started this process with some preconceived notions about what strata committees were like, that they're full of rusted on types and people with agendas and people who are difficult to deal with, or they're slow and lethargic to change. But our committee was great. We've got a combination of some young and very tech savvy people with some more, I'll say, experienced strata committee members who know a little bit more about governance, and the whole process was great.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you've had a really good experience. Do you mind walking me and the viewers through the steps you went through?
Sure. Yeah. So I started essentially from scratch. I had to do a bit of research. I found a great webinar that was put on by, I think it was Waverley Council and some other council areas that ran through all of the issues, buildings not having enough power, not being wired with enough power to cope with any significant number of charges and so forth. So I sort of got across the issues in that webinar. It's a great webinar if you can find it on YouTube. And then it basically sort of said, be prepared to join your strata committee. And, one person said to, be prepared for it to sort of take a long time. So don't wait, join the strata committee. So I reached out to NetStrata, who are our strata management company. I started out by saying, how do I join the strata committee? And they said, always happy to have new talent on the strata committee, but, is there an issue that's motivating you, animating you to ask? And I said, yeah, I'm interested in electric vehicle chargers. And they said, oh, great. Well, we're already doing that. They already had some proposals coming in from JetCharge, amongst others. And I thought, okay, great. Maybe I won't even have to join the strata. And then the AGM minutes were circulated before the AGM, and I found out that my name was still there. So I was still nominated. Anyway, I turned up to the online AGM. It was during COVID, so that was sort of done over Zoom, and got voted on to the strata committee, which was great. But that early AGM, I was a little discouraged because there were some other owners who were pretty vocally not interested in spending any money on backboning the building, which we can get into a little bit more later. And I thought it was going to be quite a long haul. But anyway, then I found out that there was actually an existing bylaw already in place in the apartment building that I'm in. It's only 3 or 4 years old. Which says that if an owner wants to, at their own expense, install an EV charger and it comes off their own meter, and it's done in accordance with appropriate standards and so forth, that you're free to do that. And so I found an electrician who was already working in the building.
Why was that important, Brett?
Because they already got a familiarity with how the building's wired, and also there's a familiarity with the building management company. They know they only have people around who they know aren't going to create noise out of hours and leave messes uncleaned up and so forth. So with a pre-existing relationship between my electrician and structure building management, who look after all of our buildings, I didn't have to worry about whether or not they were going to sort of be apprehensive about the job getting done right. So I recommend that to anybody who's looking to do this. We kind of did a bit of a walk through and came up with a bit of a plan for the cable run. So the cable run for our charger was about 100 meters, and this is not an extension cable. This is quite substantial cable. So that we had to work out how to get that run. But that wasn't as difficult as you might think. I mean, multi-story buildings have these things called risers, which are essentially holes that run through the building vertically, and they're for exactly that. So we were able to run the cable down through there. We came up with a bit of a plan. I also wanted to run internet access, or a network anyway, to our charger There's a few things I hadn't really considered before I started looking at different makes and models of charger.
Are you too far away from your apartment to connect via Wi-Fi?
Oh yeah, 100 meters through, a meter or so of concrete, and yeah, it was too far away. So I wanted to run a network cable to the charger for software updates, and sort of reporting and a few of the nice things that chargers do for us. But also because I sort of made an undertaking to the Strata committee that we would sort of future-proof our charger installation to make it ready to talk to a load balancing sort of system if the building goes for a building-wide solution in the future. So the charger is also in common property, so there are a few other considerations for chargers which I hadn't factored in, like how to lock the charger. When we're not home, a lot of chargers will allow you to sort of lock the charger using an RFID card or something. I opted for one that had a screen, so I could sort of do it with a PIN number.
That's great. So what happened next?
Well, the Sparky had some calculations and some thinking to do. He gave us various options for single phase, 3-phase, 16 amps, 10 amps, all different sorts of combinations. And ultimately what we chose was 3-phase, 16 amps, and that equates to 11 kilowatts at my charger, which that's for most EVs, as you know, that's for the built-in AC charger, that's as fast as they'll take power in anyway. So, but for us, the decision to use 3-phase was more about the voltage drop. We because you're starting with a higher voltage, you had to be within certain limits by the time you got to the charger. But for people who are thinking to themselves, I don't want to have to think about any of that sort of stuff, I took an interest in it. But the Sparky looked after all of that for me. They spoke to our energy provider about upgrading our meter to 3-phase.
And again, so working with an electrician who knows your building is extremely helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. So he not only had a previously existing relationship with our building management, he also knew the energy company who was involved. We've actually got an embedded energy network, which, side note, is I thought that was going to be a hassle as far as installing a charger. But for anybody who doesn't know what that is, an embedded energy network is where a whole development or an old folks home or a retirement village, that everybody in there has the same provider. Everybody has the same electricity provider in our building. All of the residents do. You actually don't have an option to do anything else. And I initially reached out to JetCharge to ask the question long before I sort of started this process and say, hey, we've got an embedded energy network in our building. Is that going to be a barrier to installing an electric vehicle charger in the building? And they're really good. JetCharge said, actually, you know what? No, that's potentially a plus because as a part of your energy assessment, when you try and work out how much power you've got available in the building, you've got to sort of work out how much everybody's drawing. And if everybody's got different electricity providers, then it's a bit harder to add all that up. But in our case, Evergy provide the energy for all of our tenants. So we would have known how much power we have available and how much the residents are drawing. So that's going to be a big part of how we look at a building-wide solution moving forward. But yeah, definitely working with an electrician who knows the building. Shout out to Adam at Automatrix Electrical. He was very, very good. And he also had some really innovative solutions too. When I said to him we wanted to have our charger on a network so that it would have internet access for software updates and stuff, he suggested running Ethernet over power. Lots of people are familiar with power over Ethernet, but Ethernet over power, we would have actually been able to plug something into our apartment and then plug one in at the other end because it would have been on the same supply, literally on the same meter. It actually would have been a good solution. But because we wanted to have the cable in place should we ever need to have our charger connect to a load balancing solution for the whole building, we ended up going a different way.
So it sounds like you have the technical side of things all mapped out. How did that actually translate to getting the approval from the Strata committee?
Well, that part was, as I said, not as hard as I thought it was. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel at all. There are some excellent resources online. There's a website for the Owners Corporation Network. They've got some template forms. JetCharge have template forms. New South Wales Government have template forms. Things like, for writing a letter to Strata, letting them know that you have ordered an electric vehicle and that you want to install an electric vehicle charger and so forth. I really didn't have to do much. So I used the JetCharge one from their website. Shout out to JetCharge for making all those resources available and thinking through what we have to do as EV owners to try and do this in Strata buildings. I used pictures with a proposal. Not everybody in the Strata, having said our Strata is pretty tech savvy, not everybody's an electric vehicle geek. So I just used a lot of pictures to show them where the cable would run, what it would look like, make it easy on Strata, basically.
Okay, so how did it actually go when you submitted it to the committee?
It was approved without any issues at all. Everything that we were proposing was wholly within a pre-existing bylaw, so there was sort of very little reason to not cut back at all. The vote was unanimous. I opted to abstain.
Why did you do that?
Well, I think just keeping myself at arm's length from the decision. I mean, I sort of, I waited until it was clear that it was going to be voted unanimous before I opted to abstain. But, I'm the one standing to benefit from the project. And I didn't want anyone else on the Strata committee or Net Strata, the Strata management company, to have anybody sort of say, people on the Strata committee are backing their own projects or for their own benefit. So it wasn't a difficult thing to abstain, and it was approved with very little fanfare.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's good to hear. I mean, with the committee approval in hand, tell me about the installation itself.
Well, once we knew we had the go-ahead, I jumped straight on the website for JetCharge, ordered the charger. That was delivered within like 2 days to my office, which was great. I started to have a bit of a play with it. I let the Strata committee know that we needed a letter to our energy provider, and also one for the electrician, just for their own records, just to let them know that the project was approved by Strata. My electrician flagged that we were going to have to move some cars during the installation, so we had cable tray running through the car park in a place that was pretty fortuitous for us for the installation. We were able to run the cable in that tray most of the way to my car, which was good. But some of that was working over the top of other people's cars. So we sort of said we had to let some residents know that we needed them to move their car for the day. But nothing is an insurmountable challenge. I approached the building managers and I said, hey, would you mind if I wrote a letter to the people whose cars need to move and just thank them on our behalf for helping us out? And they said, yeah, no, that's fine. And so we did that. We wrote a letter and I dropped a small gift card in each one and just put them in all the letterboxes for the people whose cars needed to move. Structured building management, they know the building. They're dealing with residents all the time and complaints. They know, what's likely to cause complaints. They reached out and spoke to the owners, and we moved their cars. Ended up not being that big a deal at all.
Good. And what about upgrading the electricity meter itself? When did that actually happen?
The 3-phase meter. So we actually had to have the big cable, the 3-phase cable, run most of the way, or all the way actually, up to the distribution board where my meter was before that happened, because when they send out the level 2 electrician to come out to upgrade the meter, you need to have all your stuff done first. But even that wasn't a big deal. Again, having the electrician liaising with our energy company for us, we basically didn't have to think about it. It just was not a big deal. We ran all the way down to the car and sort of had it coming out the wall, and then mounted the charger on the wall, and it was mostly done. The only thing that I really did after that was I wanted to add the cable tidy, which was kind of neat actually, because there is no power outlet down where the charger is. There's an electric vehicle charger now, but there was no power outlet, so I backed the Ioniq 5 up to the spot, was able to use the vehicle to load adapter on the back of the car to run my hammer drill to drill into the wall to mount the cable tidy, which was great fun.
Yep, excellent. So I see that you've added a sign over the top there. Why did you choose to do that?
A couple of reasons. I put that in the proposal for that went to Strata. I wanted them to know that we were sort of thinking about how other people would think about it. It was new ground for all of us. Mine is the first residential charger in the entire building. I wanted people to know that we were paying for the electricity, and it sort of takes some heat off the building managers and the Strata committee, so they're not sort of inundated with a whole bunch of people calling up saying so-and-so is stealing power, and then having to explain, no, they're actually not. Yep. So it was, it cost, I think, $17. You jump on Vistaprint online, you can order it. I had it within a day, and it was real easy to add.
That's very sensible. I mean, has the charger actually attracted any attention at all from other residents?
Yeah, it has, but definitely not complaints. I mean, within a few days of our charger being up on the wall, our Strata management company called up and said, "Hey, somebody else has asked how you got that done. Listen, do you mind talking them through it?" And I said, "No, absolutely not." And of course they called up, so they were ordering a Model Y and hoping to have theirs in a little while. So invited him over, showed him the charger. We are very happy to talk them through it, and that's happened twice since. So yeah, there's been interest in it, but not that anybody's had any complaints. There are other people wanting to know how to do it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it sounds like you're the pioneer for that building. So what would you say are the keys to your success for getting your charger installed in your situation?
That's a good question, Tom. So I did a bit of research online before we started, but I don't think that was key to success. I think that honestly there were some other things that helped out a lot. Strata, our Strata managing company, were absolutely brilliant. Michael Thompson was really supportive, very helpful, very professional. They're the ones that encouraged me to get on Strata when I reached out and said, "How do I get on Strata?" They're the ones who told me about this existing bylaw. They're very helpful indeed. The building managers, structural building management, again, incredibly professional and helpful. They made sure that we had access to everywhere we needed. Everything was done safely. They kept all the other residents informed. They really were very good. The Strata committee, lucky to be working with a really good group of people. Again, young, tech savvy, as well as experienced, and also I'd say very forward thinking. Several years ago, when that bylaw was passed, I think that was quite progressive and forward thinking to pass that bylaw when maybe they didn't understand as much about it as we do now. Having a really good electrician is brilliant. Again, Adam from Automatrix was brilliant. Knowing the building, providing innovative solutions, being that liaison with the energy company, so we didn't have to deal with any of that stuff. Our energy company, Evergy, were very good. They vetted his design. He said, "Oh, let's propose to do it this way. It'll be simpler," and they said, "Yeah, that's great." They assisted with the upgrade of the 3-phase meter, which was good. I mentioned having cable tray running the direction we needed it run in the car park. That probably helped. That won't be the same for everybody, but there's lots of cable tray in our car park, so it's certainly going to work for some people. I'd say using existing resources, like jump online, have a look at the owners network and the JetCharge site and the state government site. Have a look at those template resources. There's really good letters there. You don't have to start from scratch. I just basically repurposed a lot of existing materials. Use pictures, make it easy for Strata to understand what you want to do. Do what you say you're going to do. Minimize noise. If there are rules about not installing after 5 p.m., then down tools at 5 p.m. Respect that other residents need to live in the building too, so just minimize disruption. The building managers are often very good at that. They're dealing with the clients, the residents who are most often upset by noise and so forth. So leverage your building management company. And then the last thing I'd say is don't fear joining your Strata committee. That is, when all is said and done, I'm really excited to have the charger in place and working for us now. It's been great. I'm really enjoying the new car, much more now that I can charge it at home. But as much as anything, I'm actually as pleased to have joined our Strata committee. We've met more of our neighbours than we would have before. There've been other projects around the building, like a community garden and other stuff that we had visibility of that I wouldn't have had any visibility of because I wasn't on the Strata. So I actually thought I thought that was pretty good.
And I think you're now known as the EV guy you were telling me before,
Yes.
Which is great. I mean, so is the committee still considering a building-wide solution for more EV chargers in the future in your building?
Yes. Yeah. And so loosely, for anybody who's watching this, not understanding why it can be tough to get an electric vehicle charger in an apartment building, our apartment building is very new and they just don't have the capacity there for everybody to put in a charger. My charger draws about as much as sort of 3 or 4 ovens is basically how I would explain it. 3 or 4 ovens running at once. So that's 3 or 4, and if I charge my car for sort of 4 or 5 hours, a few people doing that in the building, and you will, even in a modern building, start to run out of power. So we still have this challenge for a building that's got, hundreds and hundreds of apartments in it. So yes, we're still looking at a building-wide solution. We've still got to solve that problem. In the short term, I've got a solution, but I'm going to stay engaged with the Strata committee. We've just surveyed all of the residents, asking them about their intentions in terms of buying EVs. How, do you think you'll buy an EV? If so, how soon? And that sort of information will ultimately inform our strategy. That'll let us know roughly how many charges we sort of need to plan for. I'm already a convert. I think I can see pretty clearly that, sooner than we thought, as recently as a few years ago, we've sort of hit a tipping point, and EVs are going to be a lot more common. So we know we've got to solve this problem. But doing this survey will tell us how many people we need to plan for and over roughly what sort of time. And the owners will have to vote for that, of course. That's not up to me. The owners would have to vote to approve or not approve so-called backboning the building, which is where you add a significant amount of capacity to the building by drawing in big wires, so to speak, into the building. It's expensive. A lot of buildings, it would require a special levy. But the New South Wales State Government have got some really good resources online. They've got this sort of 5-step plan for EV readiness for residential buildings and also for commercial buildings. It's a great roadmap. It sort of, walks through, starts with surveying everybody and then doing an energy assessment, looking at what infrastructure you've got in place, and then approaching vendors. So we've got all that stuff going on now. But so yeah, we still have to solve that for the whole building. But I'm very glad to have gotten this done for my Ioniq 5, which we're really loving.
Oh, that's great, Brett. I just want to say congratulations on getting your own electric vehicle charger installed in your apartment complex. And look, thank you very much for sharing your experience with our viewers and on how this was achieved. And I'd like to wish you and your neighbours the very best of luck as you look at a Strata-wired solution that will hopefully allow a lot more electric vehicles to charge in your building.
Thanks for all you do for the EV industry in Australia too, Tom.
Fantastic. And thank you, Brett. And if you've got any questions at all on installing an EV charger in an apartment complex, or if you'd like to share your own experience in this matter, please leave a comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Take care. Until the next Ludicrous Feed video. Happy charging.